high in the sky, I know. Rolling.
This is a Warren Zevon song. And also an original. And I mentioned the 4-string banjo earlier, which is the easier one to play. Well, that's what composed this one, so I'm not entirely sure I can play it perfectly. Everybody from there.
Everybody had cash to spare, was there holding back, and wished on the cabs.
out here anyway. Town council went out and spent a friggin' fortune and was nothing but Roman candles. Who the fuck likes Roman candles, man? At least the boys from Blorum showed up and we got a racket at us and we all went, ew! Ah! But it was mostly because of the punches that we were throwing. And beer bottles. Well, what an underwhelming display of civic pride. I won't vote for him next year. Just come on down to the beer tin back. Give us another half dozen beer or so. Pocket here is right full of beer tickets and nobody to spend them on. And I won't be vote for him. I won't be vote for him. No, I won't be vote for him. Next year, you couldn't pay me. Not even with muscle t-shirts wall to wall. Not even with a Gooseberg platter sewing fast. Not even a fish that don't run a porta potties and fish cups full of beer. They get yourself one for a 2D flat man, and what the heck do you think of that? Didn't you say the beer was fat? That's what I did. But it was only in price and you won't be voting for him next year. But the ice came free.
That's how it goes. That's a gig I recorded back in January. Playing live down at a spot called Distortion. I got a bite to eat here before I get back to grinding. And I did some sensible things while I was on break. For example, some of the audio which had been loading as huge WAV files, I converted to smaller compressed audio suitable for purposes of rebroadcast. Well, I take care of that. In the meantime, I'm hoping Blender's going to play nice. As I start doing work in it again. Having restarted. I laid down a couple keyframes on Taylor Lorenz already too. This stuff's really straightforward. Although I think I might have overestimated how far out she moved. She only needs to go so far. And I don't need to see her on the bottom here either. I much prefer Graph Editor. Anyway, we get a sense of her general eastward motion, then she's now going to start moving farther north. So I've already tried to bump her that way, but she's going to move back first and then tend up. She's got to get around people, though, that are congregated in the middle of the intersection and doing many various things at once. Should have properly stopped, but I'm eager to get Lorenz done and over with. I was considering the character of this motion. Oh, right. I had changed this. And my memory ain't terrible. Just to make sure that I can, as much as I might want things to be so, that they're not necessarily so. So here's my definitive guide right in the middle. Huh. TK's position was updated because of that kind of thinking. Kind of curious now, though. If then that's the last ones. Okay. Very good. Can't avoid this. I have to scroll through one at a time to kind of see the character and emotion. Sometimes you can do it frame by frame. Sometimes you can do it 10 at a time, but she's definitely set and in line with the telephone pole. Look at that. Just where she's aiming for. To get that line, she's got to be back here. Not in line with it necessarily, but she's back here more. And pointing at it, which gives us the back line as well, like the perspective, this side versus that side. There's a vanishing point in behind the line. That's the pole that she's going to get past. Somewhere about that far. GK pulls level to the pole before he sees the car. I can't remember how far it's back. It's about, again, about as far back as that is from, that's the midpoint. So it's really about there. I should get her in position first. Holding shift. Now we'll rotate. I think about where the line is. Again, it's right about there. I think that looks pretty good to me. Insert rot. Saving. Going back to the last one again. Now we'll frame through. Full on step there. Switch of like weight from shoulder, from foot to foot. So another one when it's kind of like this. Insert rotation for that one. First one there. So 10. And then she's established on this different angle right there. Insert rotation. See if this doesn't work out by the end of the move. This one probably will. Yeah. Just from her motion alone. She ends up resetting on the angle she wants, right? But it eases on its own as she moves over. From about that point. Here's another rotation. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. This one all the way to there. Like that overhang. Again, just a rotation. I'll zoom in. And there's the keyframe. So to go back through them, and we'll check the rotation against the location. I can play back and get that, or scroll through. Probably better to play it back. Mm-hmm. Well, if there's a moment that she like definitively moves down range a bit, it's there. This tells me I should see her maybe in Rebel shot right about now. Hmm. Hmm. I think she literally steps back up and onto the curb. Maybe up to about here. Maybe I'm wrong. Loc wrote back and then up to that one. Now we're going to be moving downrange a few steps. But it's not a right away move, it's a hesitant move from about there. So I'll get the slightly altered angle now on the second building. I'll reset tiny bit down there. Now comes the big move. She goes down and then forward before setting again. So I'm thinking she must be about here. She might even be farther south than that. She might even be about there because she's looking past the corner of the building. But I like that position. Now I gotta get her up and down the road. More like that, right? Should see more up that building. Should see past that building. Chat died a horrible death. Maybe that was me. Maybe I done that. I don't know. Oh, wait, no. Look, it didn't die a horrible death. It's hiding. It's hiding. My bad. Sorry, Chad. I thought you were gone. And you weren't. Oh, okay. Give me a second. Okay. Got it. Here's step 1. Here's step 2. Move that over like that much. And then Blender took a fit. Okay. Yes, I have made progress. I've got through everything I had to get through. The fire truck video. No, not yet. No new info. I made lots of progress because I've got so many good marks, and I made one major update, which Lorenz helped me locate for positive sure that GK must be that far along the building. I had him only back that far, but must be closer to that corner than not. Although there's plenty of visual evidence I could have been probably ignoring. The motorbikes are easy to place because he gets through them before going across. Maybe I should do as I was doing earlier and turn off these two for a second in favor of that one. Please hold. Hey, I'll turn off the... yeah. That's good, but I want that to be smaller. Oh, that's not a good idea. Minimizing this is never a good idea. So Lorenz. And all that time she only briefly looks over as far as here. Insert rotation. And I think in all that time she only looks as far as there and hasn't moved at all. More than fairly small localized motions. So there's the move. Forward on the line of motion, but not very far. A step, maybe two. Say no farther than that. Rotation should be like pretty good, I think. Maybe a little bit off there, but not much. I'll update it just for safety's sake. If I make a change, I do like saving that change. Oh, good tea. She's moving again. Not really until there. Lovely, she doesn't really move location or rotation for all that time, but between that key and that other key, she's going to tip and turn a little bit. Insert rot. Lateral and forward. Lateral to this direction she's pointing, and then forward a step or two before turning. She's pointing in that direction. She's going to go lateral around people. And then forward from there. And again, the angle on the end of that building. Oh, I just made the wrong move there. Changed the keyframe I wanted. Let me see Z location. No, Z rotation. Thank you. whatever these three values are. Well, is that the last one and the one before it? Neither one in between? Good. That one, and that one. I copy them. I just go right on them and see that one, that one. There's no, oh, there is one right in between. Copy those. And now on the next one. A, and make sure I got all three curves selected and paste. So that should keep the position the same for those three, right? Yeah. And then the move. Insert wrote. Then there's like this god awful back rotation. And it looks like she smartly turns and starts walking off more or less in the direction she's standing in. So like maybe even to there. So, delay on the move to about there. And it's midway along that line, yep. Insert rotation. Now we can snap it. Wow. That's pretty good. 2 keyframes and got that whole thing. Ooh. Now that I got everything running, I'm going to take a chance. Control-Alt-9. Make sure I got everything here. Firefox shows right. Yep. Blender shows doesn't. Does.
A Doncaster, ladies and gentlemen.
That was one of my own originals there in that last song I was playing. 5 minutes won't even be. Won't even be.
I haven't played in so long. I'm kind of worried about the second verse. I might get it wrong, but the artist who wrote this is John Prine. I think this is on the album from 1985. I think it's called German Afternoons. So I went down and got myself a ticket to the land of the tall palm tree. Aloha, old Milwaukee, hello, Waikiki. Oh, when I stepped down from the airplane, well, I thought I heard her say, Macka, macka, wooka-licka, macka, macka, wooka-licka, would you like a lay? Hey, well, let's talk dirty in Hawaiian, whisper in my ear. Wake-a-puka, maka, wawahini, that's the words I wanna hear. heck a mooka looka dear? I said, let's talk dirty in Hawaiian. Say the words I long to hear. Kooky lady, Honolulu sunset, got it! I'll listen to the grass first sway. Drink a rum from the pineapple out in Honolulu Bay. When the grass guitars, they're all swaying. She's talking with her hands. Whack-a-mack-a-look-a-look, don't think the loca-poca ones I understand. Hey, let's talk dirty in Hawaiian. Whisper in my ear. Kika-puka-maka-wawahini. Them's the words I long to hear. Don't you lay your coconut on my tiki? What the heck a mooka dear? Oh, let's talk dirty in Hawaiian. Say the words I long to hear. So I bought a lot of junk and wet my moolah, and I sent it to the coach back home. Never had to taste a chance to dance the hula.
Oh my lord, it's John Prine.
When you talk to a wee wahine.
Sweet what? Oh man, how did I get through that gig? How did I? I don't know. I should probably leave it on in the background. I haven't queued any more Cult of Nick either. Hey! I'll put it in the background, nice and quiet. The banjo. This right after I bought this banjo is when I recorded this gig. Having lots of fun with the chords. They're like, ooh, diminish. Diminished, minor. People yak in the back. It's pretty good, eh? Bumpy ride. Time you ran was too insane. You will meet again. No joke. One of the few things I had to do in France was see Morrison's grave. It was a long time ago now. I was a younger man. Come to think of it, shit. Won't you tell me where your freedom lies? The streets are fields that never deliver me from reasons why. You can almost dance to that. I've done worse than this gig. Dang. Killing time. Killing time. I've been meaning to learn more Towns Van Zandt to go along with the Morrison. Something to mix it up a little. And that's also not the only way I do that one. I cover that one differently, depending on the situation and my mood. She sounds like she's having fun. Laughers, screamers, clappers.
This one is also an original. I can't really tell you what the name of the song that it came from is. The tune is derivative, but the lyrics are not. Based on a sort of true story. Called Marine Effect Squall.
We'll skip that one. Great song. But not fit for this purpose. Skip.
Yeah, it's my own song. I don't start off very often. With the boat.
Did I pop the string or some shit? Wouldn't be the first time. It's only a 45-minute gig too. Took me 10 minutes to get through that shit? What the? No better way of learning it on the stage. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I'm going to let this happen. This is happening. This is happening.
In the velvet darkness.
Dude, you heard it.
Of the darkest night,
oh, you heard it.
Burning bright. Oh, I got this fucked up already. No matter what or who you
Might have been the first time I ever tried to sing it. On stage, I mean. Listen to the key. Ooh, the banjo needs tuning already. Burning in the fireplace.
In the darkness of everybody's life. The darkness goes down.
Oh, must go, must go. The river of life dreaming, yeah. Flow, Morpheus, slow. Right.
Will the light come streaming?
Then there's a pelvic thrust. And a step to, oh, I got it backwards.
Into my life. Well, there's a light. And it's shining in the
Frankenstein place.
So there's a light. Burning in the fireplace. There's a light. In the darkness of everybody's life.
Oh man, what a track. What a friggin' cover. I was like, oh yeah, that's getting done. I've had enough of this. Not the only one I do either.
I'm gonna start bringing a newspaper around with me.
Yeah.
So they
Throwing a newspaper and shit. Put the newspaper on your head. Put it on your head. Have you ever had it in the ear before? That's a good question. Not in the chat right now. I'm not watching the chat properly. I'm not watching the chat properly. What I'm actually doing is listening to music. I got distortion here loaded, but I've also got other things to listen to that I haven't listened to yet. One of those things is I have been going through some Kennedy tapes. got up to tape 37, 38, I think it was. It was tape 37, looks about right. They're really quiet, though. So maybe I won't get into those tonight. And I had listened to everything in the Cult of Nick worth listening to, I think. Other than, well, there is a bit of Cult left over from episode 84. Might as well put it in here.
Machine, either purpose-built or programmed by others, and I cannot tell you with a rational argument why this is. However, I can use logic, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm fitting these ideas together to show you there's something missing, and that missing thing is the irrational element to life. There is something about people which I feel cannot be rationed, and perhaps I only think this because I am one, but if that is the case, to deny this ineffable quality is to betray my current human identity. Are you with me, baby? We ain't robots! We're more than machines. It's just we cannot say exactly what it is that we are. Man is a machine, but a very peculiar machine. He is a machine which, in the right circumstances and with the right treatment, can know that he's a machine. And having fully realised this, he may find ways to cease to be a machine.
She makes her way quickly across and then stops.
My name's Nick Jerrison. How the bloody hell are
she's
we?
watching
Right, we're going to
down
get someone
the
on the airwaves now. His name's Neil Strauss, let me tell you. He's an author, he's a journalist, he's also a contributing editor of Rolling Stone magazine. He's written loads of great books. He's hung out with Jenna Jameson, she's a famous porn star. Also Motley Crue, who I'm sure you heard of, and Marilyn Manson. Hung out with all those people, written books with them. We're going to talk to him about his latest book. Mary, that was brilliant. Emergency. This book can save your life. And it's about what to do when everything kicks off and society itself crumbles around you. Let's get him on the air. We might need that book. Neil, thanks for joining us on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Nick.
Right, I'm in the middle of a riot. What do I do?
When she'll turn north, you'll see exactly what Rebel is.
The truth is, this and this may very well happen, obviously, to some people out there.
She doesn't get there
here's
right
the deal
away.
with the riot. The crowd's going to be moving fast. It's kind of like fighting a wave. Don't go against the wave. You can't fight a riot. You can't go in the opposite direction if you're caught in the crowd. You kind of have to go with the flow. It's moving faster in the middle.
Oh my God, Nick!
Outside,
what are you
so
talking
you
about?
Yourself toward the outside.
Nick, what's
and
this
then
guy
once you're on
saying,
the
Nick?
outside, you want to see if there's a door, an alley, a side street you can kind of duck into.
And what are the rules? If a riot's kicking off, can I chin someone and get away with it?
I'm going to say no. And you know what? Another important riot survivor, by the way, especially this week, is don't go out on the coast.
I have a
frog
frog
you
in
don't
my
want to look
throat.
at the people they're rioting against.
Really? Okay, so try and look scruffy if you're going somewhere that's going to look like a riot.
I am a
Blend
meat
in,
popsicle.
because you don't want to be the enemy. And also, never try to cross police lines thinking like you're going to get to safety because they're going to just
Gonna hold on there. I should probably not have done the rotation.
Yeah, that's good advice. As the wave of police come towards you, don't think, oh, police, safety, I'll just squeeze in there, that'll be fine.
Yeah, I've been shot with a rubber bullet before for something I was covering for the New York Times.
Really? What happened?
It was pretty similar to when there was some of the presidential convention in Los Angeles. I think Rage Against the Machine were performing outside, and these anarchists started throwing bottles and things at the police, and the police started attacking. And I smartly thought, and this is back before I wrote the survival book, I smartly thought if I wear rollerblades, I can kind of get out of the scene in time. But what happens is when there are bodies and people all over you, really just can't move on rollerblades and end up tripping over everyone. So I ended up kind of closest to the police, and they were kind of firing rubber bullets, and I got hit in the ass with one.
Really? Did it hurt?
Yeah, it did.
You sound like you quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, some secret part of me secretly enjoyed it. Actually, that's what I was looking for.
How do you spot? Now, I've heard a lot about these kind of people, these agent provocateurs, people who turn up to cause trouble. Because I remember I was once at a protest.
Jeez, this episode is just
turn
like
up out of nowhere,
perfect.
Who no one knew who they were. No, they didn't seem to know what they were protesting about, and they were just out to cause trouble. Are there ways of spotting those people, and what do you do if some of those people turn up in the middle of a protest?
Yeah, ski masks are
good
usually
question,
a good
Nick.
sign.
Right. Okay.
But I mean it because like a lot of times when I've seen them, they're going to be usually they're wearing masks or some way disguising their faces because they know they're cameras and they don't want to be identified. So that's what they're going to be, as well as either the disguising their face or there's something in their hand with which they're going to be using to cause trouble. So and it's so true, and it's kind of a sad statement on our generation that often the people just want the mayhem to happen. Like I remember when I was covering Woodstock, I think it was 2004 or whatever it was for the New York Times, and there was a big fight riot there. It wasn't over anything except the idea that can we get away with it? Can we light stuff on fire and tear down speaker stands and create mayhem and get away with it?
With the best will in the world, though, it is quite exciting, isn't it?
You know what? And it was funny because they're really careful to not hurt anyone. Before they topple the speaker stands, they'd like make sure everyone was out of the way. And I mean, I think that's true. It's when you sort of feel like I'm living life and it's more exciting now, and that's probably why people do it.
Okay, let's talk about a slightly more serious disaster situation.
Yes, because that wasn't serious at all.
Well, but let's talk about you're on the train, you're on the subway, something like that, and a bomb goes off, terrorist attack. What do you do?
Right. I think the first thing is if you're not immediately hurt or just it depends on what the terrorist attack is. For example. Okay,
let's set the scene. Let's try. There's a package has been left on the underground and it's gone off and it's exploded. And
right.
There's some guy maybe who's blown himself up. What do you do in that situation?
Cool. Yeah. So here are a few notes. First of all, I mean, obviously, the most important thing is to keep calm and not panic, which is a hard skill to have, but you need that. Secondly, is the first thing you're going to want to do if you survive a blast or explosion is to maybe call someone to let them know you're okay. Don't use your cell phones or radios in a situation like that because often there's secondary devices that are designed to go off and cause more panic. Thirdly, if you're sort of in the underground or in the subway, there's certain you don't want to panic, get out on the tracks, and then kind of sort of electrocute yourself. So you've got to find kind of the orderly way to exit without sort of getting on the tracks. The second thing is, is there a gas attack? So, because in other words, if there's a chemical attack, obviously you're going to want to sort of, cover your nose and mouth. And I'm sure you're not going to have the foresight to bring a gas mask, or you can even dip a handkerchief in like vinegar and cover your nose and mouth.
That was then. This is now.
Hang on, let me stop you there. What
10 years ago.
Dip a handkerchief in vinegar. If you can do that, that'll stop the amount of gas that gets into your lungs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Especially now with these riots going on, a handkerchief in vinegar tightly wrapped around your nose and mouth will actually stop that, as well as wearing kind of long sleeves and keeping stuff off your skin.
Would that trick work with CS gas?
What's that? That'll work with CS gas. In fact, the best way to avoid a riot is to bring a canister of CS gas yourself, and if you're being chased, you just run down an alley, set it off, and keep going.
So that's in the event of a terrorist attack, remain calm. I've got a list of things that you can talk to us about. One of them says domestic crackdowns. What's one of them?
Well, I mean, to me, the idea, to me, and this is where like the book actually originally began, because it wasn't a how-to, but it was a story of how I was going to make myself safe from what was happening. And living in the States during the Bush era, one realized that all these civil liberties that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights supposedly gave us, we realized, well, they're just
did everything catch up?
Often matter to the people ruling the country. So, to me, the idea is the best way to avoid a disaster is not to be in it, right? To leave ahead of time, to not go out on the streets when you know there's a riot. And so, to me, I never wanted you read those books, and I never wanted to be a victim of history, one of those people who didn't see the signs. Mm-hmm. So what I did was I actually got a second passport so that I could leave the country if things got worse.
What is a domestic crackdown, though? I don't know what it is.
I mean, to me, a domestic crackdown is it's basically when a government is terrorizing its own citizens. When people are when Stalin and Russia and people are disappearing. In their homes in the middle of the night.
Gotcha, right. So it's when you're living in your house, always living in fear of being maybe extradited or impounded.
They were talking about it 10 years ago.
Right, exactly. And
okay, so what do you
do? Who thinks to bring a gas mask? Well,
if you know that the police are after you, how do you how do you protect your house from having the door knocked down, and how do you protect yourself from being put in a bag and taken off to prison?
Yeah, to me that's where you prepare in advance. I mean, that's why I actually got a second passport, put money offshore in like a sort of hidden account. And so you're pre-prepared so you can just leave when you need to and, slip across the border and pick up ahead of time. Because the truth is, when it comes to protecting yourself and your family or your house, they can take your house as long as you get out with your family.
How easy is it if you're wanted by one of the major powers? How easy is it to... I've got friends who literally are facing things like extradition and stuff like that. How do you escape from, say, the American government if they want you?
Yeah, I know. I think you have to go to a country where they don't have an extradition treaty with the U.S. And get there, and also realize that just because they don't have an extradition treaty doesn't mean someone can't go to their club. You put you in a bag and take you off in a helicopter. So, to me, that's when it comes to. I think there's a book called. I think it's called The Art of Invisibility or How to Be Invisible. That is basically ways to change your identity. I can tell a not totally legal way people have done it in the past.
Go on.
You sure?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Right. There's something you can do, and it's harder now than it was before. So you have to choose the right, say, county or region to do it in. But a lot of people used to get what they call a tombstone ID. and they would find the grave of somebody who had died at a young age from 4 to 11 before they got a. Do you call it a social security number here?
Right. So you find someone who died before they became a fully fledged adult.
Exactly. And who probably hasn't applied for a social security number. And then you go online, maybe get their genealogy information, and you go apply just via the mails. Get a separate P.O. box in their name for a social security card. With that, you go get your driver's license. With those two things, you go get the passport, and now you have a completely assumed identity. And nowadays, you have to check with your region and just make sure they don't double check the birth certificates against the death certificates before doing that.
So you steal the identity of a dead baby.
I'm saying I didn't do it.
No,
I said it was illegal,
I
and I didn't do
what
it.
you mean. Yeah, that's okay, right?
But if it's your life at stake, one may have to go to extremes.
How long do you think it will be until the United Kingdom and America collapse in riots, looting, and a big kickoff? How long have we got, do you think, in years?
7 hours. No, I actually don't. I don't think. Honestly, I don't think it'll happen. I mean, you as Great Britain, you've already dealt with, a great empire, coming apart. Russia's dealt with that as well. America's about to deal with it. And the truth is, we go on living. We're human beings, before we lived without electricity in caves, and I don't think we're going to go back to that. But the truth is, we do survive these things.
Do you live? I mean, I'm friends with kind of some of your fellow countrymen who are kind of survivalists, who are hardcore conspiracy theorists. They live in bunkers with guns, gold, and tinned food. Right now, do you follow that same regime? How prepared are you for the oncoming apocalypse?
Well, I think it's a catch-22. I find that I think that first of all, I don't really think there's an oncoming apocalypse, but I do think that my dad always taught me, expect the best, prepare for the worst. So I think nowadays that I'm not going to go to the extreme of I enjoy my lifestyle. I like living in the city, but at the same time, I'll be prepared to. Well, the truth is this: when I started researching the stuff for the books, one can be sort of a selfish survivalist and sit on their MREs with their shotgun saying "Get off my land," like you're saying, the typical American survivalist.
Yeah.
Or you can take the skills you learned and actually use them to help other people. So what I did is, because I got medical training and became an EMT, because I got search and rescue training, I joined a search and rescue team that works as a police, kind of a reserve arm of the police. So if an American disaster happens, I got a pager on my hip right now, and I'll be running to the disaster to help people out.
All right, I see. Because one of the things, one of the ways, here's how you check out how hardcore someone is, Neil.
Yeah.
When you go around to their house and you go in their kitchen or their food storage room, how many bits of tin food have they got? How high is the pile of tin food? That's the stuff you need, isn't it? Because this is the final question. In the event of a massive nuclear war, right, where literally everything's flattened, the whole thing goes wrong, no point going to hospital because there's too many crowds of people there, you're back to your animalistic self. It does boil down to things like tin food in that instance, doesn't it?
Yes, with your can of tinned, fruit, pear slices, you're going to beat the masses with that. You know what, man? The fact is, what it really comes down to is it comes down to kind of the skills you have. Because the truth is, you may have a giant stockpile of tin food, but how long is that really going to last you? It does last you a week, a month, a year. If it comes down to that, do you even want to be around when it comes down to that? So I think what it comes down to is your character. You cling on. You're a fighter.
Yeah, I'd cling on in the event of do you know what? Let me tell you something, Neil Strauss. I'd love to see the big nuclear war, the big kickoff. I'd like to be here at the end of the earth. I don't want to die and everyone else continues having fun. When I die, everyone else is going out with me.
Yeah, you know what? And it's so true, and people don't believe me, but you've just proved my theory, which is I think a lot of people secretly want the world to end in their lifetimes, so they know they didn't miss anything.
That's right. That's exactly how I feel.
You want to stay at the movie till the end.
Yeah, come friendly bombs and fall on Slough. I want to see it all kick off. I want to be right in the centre of it, right, as it's all going wrong. Buildings collapsing, law and order completely breaks down. You look out in the morning, you see a mushroom cloud coming from the nearest city. And oh, God, it's finally happened. This is what I'm saying.
Right, and you sit there and you're in your radiation suit and gas mask and go, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is a cue for world destruction, or by the Johnny Lydon song or something.
So in the event that all of that happens, it all kicks off. Here's what I'm asking you. We need tinned food. Is there anything else I need to ensure that I can survive a little longer in the theatre of war that brings the earth to its end?
Yes. one important thing. I think you need a woman, because if you don't have sex for the rest of your life, you will go crazy.
Right, I've got one of them as well. I'm in. Listen, Neil Strauss, thanks for joining us on the show. Emergency. This book can save your life. Goes through survival tactics in extreme situations. Thanks for joining us on the show, man.
That was interesting.
That was great fun, man. Occupy your own New Year's revolution. I've previously echoed the point that the internet is alike to a printing press. It's an observation which is almost certainly a cliche, and it wasn't new when I ranted about it in a podcast episode called The Global Awakening. However, the frustrating thing about the comparison is that it's hard not to be drawn towards the headline-grabbing side of what happened next. The printing press was a vital step towards the French Revolution and the huge political changes that then echoed around the world in its wake. This terrified the world's leaders at the time, caused a huge change in the power structures which towered above the peasants of the age, and still causes concern for our modern-day elites and rulers. For me, though, what's far more important is the spread of radical ideas known as the Enlightenment, which preceded and underpinned these events. That process is less spectacular and bloodthirsty, but far more important and long-lasting. The further away an event is in our universe, the more our minds give it a false symmetry that it lacks when viewed close up.
Hey, good
the
night.
moon looks like a perfect round sphere, but when you get close to it, its rough edges and crater-marked surface are revealed. This is true for events in our past, and there's a danger the most positive consequences of the printing press upon the Western world could be forgotten by overly excited would-be authoritarians keen to rouse the masses and occupy positions currently held by the, quote, elite, close quote. In my opinion, such an exchange of power would not serve us, as those who occupy a seat of power in the future will encounter the same problem as those who currently pretend to lead us. The entire notion of a hierarchical dictatorship is coming apart thanks to the communications revolution. That's what's happening. The whole idea of people being your boss who sit right at the top that you've never met is coming apart at the seams, because nowadays you can see what they're up to on their Twitter feed, you can watch them on their Facebook page. The internet is a giant monitoring system, but it turns out we can see them just as they can see us. And in short, leaders control by controlling information, and the information superhighway makes this impossible. No matter how hard they try, just like the war on drugs, the entire thing is beyond their control. And our world's massive financial difficulties limit their ambitions and ability to control it. The fact we've lived in a world where the common narrative implied that it was their responsibility to sort things out means some people are now focusing upon the likely indirect results which the internet may have upon a small few, the infamous 1%. Now, I believe would-be revolutionaries would do well to concentrate upon the less publicised but far more profound aspects of the internet. It's an incredible learning tool. It represents the fact that we can now teach each other how to think without the establishment being involved at all. They control the education system, they control the broadcast media, they do not control the net. And the net can do more for education than the education system or the broadcast media ever could have. Now, I'm old enough to remember the pre-internet world. Back then, people would say, "Ooh, he's even bought a book on how to do it," when they spoke about a mate or a relative who was on a self-improvement trip. This is an echo of the most important revolutionary aspect of the printed page. It allowed people to learn how to improve themselves and change the way that they thought about the world. This is the driving force behind any meaningful long-term social change ever experienced in any society ever. A violent revolution where the ruling elites have their heads cut off and are replaced by equally excitable left-wing or right-wing demagogues would mean nothing in the long term, other than a depressing game of spot the difference. I was hugely disappointed by the Occupy protests I attended in London. I felt I was watching some sort of dull Labour Party activist types who put me off politics during my time at university and ultimately led to a total disenfranchisement for me because Tony Blair. As I chatted to them, they seemed hugely in favour of censorship, and they were quick to anger if I questioned their ideas, and seemed wholly focused upon fixing other people rather than themselves. Now, I've had similar encounters with people who adopt the anonymous pose. In fact, they were the ones who viciously tried to stop an interview with some Scientologists going onto the airwaves. We had call after call, we had threats, and we had people turning up at the radio station. The dangers of censorship are key to my argument here. When one person censors someone else, they deny you access to a perspective. Even if they've done this because they've decided it's for the collective good, you have lost the chance to learn something. This is why censorship is one of the roots of limited intelligence within a society. The more a society censors its people, the more stupid you will find that society to be. I believe my generation and the ones beneath it have been let badly down by the education system. It's tempting to think that this is because it's not in the immediate interests of our rulers to explain how the game is weighted in their favour. But this is only an unfounded and perhaps unfair suspicion. Either way, they are keen to control the information you're allowed to find out, and their appetite for this should not be supported by anyone without serious consideration and a solid counter-argument to this piece I'm now reading to you. Although I'm suggesting something that I'd like everyone to do, I want a note of caution here. I'm aware of the fact that collectives tend towards fascism. Any idea that requires other people to do as you say can be a dangerous first step towards an authoritarian mindset. And this podcast is intended to be the total opposite of authoritarianism. People usually know what's best for them in their life, and if they don't, it's always better they learn how to spot hazards rather than rely upon others to do it for them. That's why this call to action that I'm giving you now is so vague and so subjective and so wishy-washy. It's as simple as this. 2 words. Next year. Improve yourself. Make yourself better. That's it. I'm sorry it's so vague, and I'm sorry I can't tell you that communism's the way forward, or capitalism, or libertarianism, or whatever it is, but them's the breaks. Any movement which requires you to move in a particular direction someone else has chosen will only teach you how to follow. What our nations need now is a people that can think for themselves and choose their own path. An uncensored internet lets us do that like never before, and without question, Western liberal democracy, for all of its faults, has the potential to grow individuals who are capable of unique thoughts. This must be encouraged, not suppressed. This is the gift our ancestors have given to us, free speech and the ability to think thoughts we're not supposed to think. If we're going to be a great nation, that's what we need to do. And that's where you come in. The true path for a revolution, in my opinion, begins with self-improvement and learning. Not what to think, but how to think. As we approach this new year, there's going to be loads of people indulging in our culture's practice of making a New Year's resolution or two. I suggest you use this opportunity and these words I'm giving you now to motivate you to do precisely that. Sort yourself out. Improve who you are. If you're a political revolutionary, do it with the same conviction and gusto that you'd use to challenge the Illuminati or the evil Tories or the communist leftards or the racist Republicans or the dozy Democrats. Whoever it is you oppose, improve yourself with the same sense of energy and vitality. This meme is embedded in most of the decent movements that have sprung up recently, including Occupy and Anonymous, but it often gets ignored by the members, by the foot soldiers. This blog entry is an attempt to remind you of it. You'll have heard the phrase before, be the change you want to see. It often comes up. This article is kind of a bit of meat on the bone, right? I've made no secret of the fact that I think we may have some very dicey times ahead of us in the next couple of years. But it's not the most important aspect of what is happening to people right now. It's a distracting headline. If you look for it, there appears to be a self-improvement revolution happening already. It might just be the company I keep in my Facebook and Twitter feeds, but I've seen plenty of people who used to be fat and they've now lost weight. Why? I suspect they've used the internet to find out about diet and exercise and landed upon a way of eating food that is right for them, rather than the sort of advice you used to get from the broadcast media. More subtly, though, these people who used to be total idiots at school, right? And nowadays, you see them occasionally admitting they're wrong or behaving more reasonably. They must be on a similar trip. I can't be the only person who can detect people improving themselves all the time via the internet. Digital communications technology such as mobile phones and the internet also come at you with this anyway, because they give you a form of self-awareness. They record conversations, they record activities. You then revisit these events at a later date, and that can be incredibly powerful for some people. Rereading a drunken or angry conversation in your Facebook chat box is quite a profound change to the way you see yourself, I think. Looking at a picture of the night you went out and all your clothes were too tight and so on and so forth puts the issue of your weight into sharp relief. The internet provides a mirror alike to no other previously. It's these changes, which seem small but are magnified by the volume of people they impact upon, that are going to lead to a better society as a whole. The biggest and the most important changes you can make to your world are the ones you can make right now to yourself and the way you think. Stop worrying about everyone else. The more people who take up this challenge of fixing themselves first, the less unlikely the wider changes needed in our society will be. Joining those who are using the internet as a tool for self-development seems to me like the most useful thing you can do. If we all do that, we might well move in different directions, but the definition of the word revolution could move away from something which has to involve violence and conflict with others. Conflict with yourself first, improve yourself, sort yourself out, and the world will fall into place afterward. A couple of comments on this. Eddie Diaz says, "Thank you. I will join you in awakening our fellow thinkers and doers." Thanks for that, Eddie. Another one here, David, says, "You see through the clouds very nicely. I wish the readers could get it by reading it as well, but tend to find only the converted already do or not at all. Maybe constant repetition seems to do the job, if anything," says David. Yeah, I mean, the cult is never going to turn out to be the sort of place where I don't think we're going to have huge, furious debates between people. And it is occasionally preaching to the converted. But I really think that this is very important. This idea is very important. This meme is crucial. We've gone through the law of projection before in the past. It's a podcast entry called Katma, the law of projection. Have a little look at that. You understand the logic behind this. I hope people take it up. It would be nice if the podcast could become a kind of massive collective self-improvement trip. If you find articles that you think are useful in making you a better person, do fire them across to the cult, and we'll have a look at them in the future. Bit of feedback on the old podcast. Let's have a look at it together, shall we? First of all, we've got one here. Who is this from? Oh, right, yeah. I've got a comment on a really old blog entry. What's happening is, as the cult expands, right, because we've got just under 1,000 listeners now. We've had quite a boost recently. It's largely due to this Stitcher thing, which I'm still enormously sceptical about, I'll be honest with you. But there we are. But it does seem that there's now people crawling across the blog, reading little blog entries here and there, and occasionally that means that spam bots think that it's worth putting posts like this on it. What's up? Yes, this article is in fact pleasant, and I have learned a lot of things from it. About blogging, thanks. My page, Lean Muscle. Says anonymous. Right, yeah, that's obviously someone trying to earn a coin by getting a few links through. It's a blog entry that I may as well read out to you, see what you think. This is a while back. I'm not sure when. Alpha males. I'm quite proud of the following sentence. I hate alpha males, but not so much that I'd want to become one. I've used it a few times now, and I'm disappointed at the response it's had from people. It's a sentence that popped out of my head when I was writing a blog entry for work. And when I did, I sort of sat back and went, yeah, that's really good. It turns out it's only a great sentence in my own head. Other people don't seem to notice its greatness. This has presented me with a problem that I'm in the process of solving. If I drop this sentence into a social occasion, no one bats an eyelid, and the conversation continues. It'd be stupid of me to try and say, don't you see, I hate alpha males, right? But not so much that I want to become one, you see? That's the brilliance of the sentence. I've highlighted the reason why people are unable to challenge the dogma surrounding the conventions of alpha males and hierarchical structures within our society, within a single sentence. Man, sometimes I'm quite good at putting together words and stuff. I suppose that's why I occasionally get paid for it. Me. Let's talk about me, and how great I think I am. You see, the thing is, I've tried acting like that before when I was younger, and it doesn't really work out. In the end, you hang out with people who either do the same about themselves or agree with you, and neither type is much fun. However, if I don't at least congratulate myself somewhere on my amazing new sentence, I'll feel a pressing need to mention it either socially or, even worse, when I'm doing my job. Either way, I'll come over like an idiot who lives up his own backside. My solution then is to blog about it. Any reader of this blog, and there's a worryingly high number of readers presently, will have already sussed out that I have twerp-like tendencies. I'm guessing you'll be looking at the screen wondering what gave me the impression that the sentence I've come up with is of note. I hate alpha males, but not so much that I'd want to become one. Not to worry, I'm putting up a lot of entries at the moment in an attempt to catch up. Skip this one and read about my ever-developing crisp habit underneath. There we go, that's the blog entry. How about that? I don't even know when that came out. When did I do that? I wrote that in April of 2010. You see, I used to write a blog every single day for a while, and then I realised that was a pointless exercise and stopped, and then I returned to it because I thought it was quite a good intellectual exercise to write a blog every single day, and that's what that is there. There's a lot of writing like that on the blog. Anyway, if you do crawl through it, I hope you enjoy it. majerisonsblogspot.co.uk, actually, is the address, not .com. I don't think you get there if you go .com. I keep saying .com on the podcast as well. Listen, .co.uk. Yeah. What else we got here? A couple of other points. Bill McGuire put a post on saying, brilliant episode, love the cut-up style. Very Burrow-esque of you, if that is a word. It's funny you should say that, Bill. Zero Friends Recordings is a huge fan of William Burroughs, and I did have that in mind when I was cutting it up like that. But there we go. He goes on to say, I like when you talk with folks who create music, art, fiction, Bitcoin, etc. who are also into the occult. A nice break from all the experts, says Bill. Yeah, I agree with that. He says, my favourite episodes by far, the ones with all new material. Not that I don't love the old interviews. Fight the power! ! Says Bill, in Minneapolis. Hey mate, thanks for that. A pleasant comment. Had a comment about the audio quality on episode 82 as well. Just pointed out that it wasn't as good as usual. Yeah, I'm having occasional problems with the amount I'm uploading. I've changed the style of the podcast. It's quite noticeable, and I think the first one where I really went for it was the one where I'm banging on about Russell Brand. And some of these podcasts are huge, and they're like 2-hour downloads, but it seems that that's popular. That seems to put up the listeners. More people seem to be downloading it. Now, here's the situation. If you put feedback on my blog, and if you think I should change something that I'm currently doing, and maybe do less of it, that is absolutely fine. I won't take a personal offence. I kind of see that as valuable, useful criticism. I would assume it was coming from a good place. So, fear ye not. If you think 5-hour long podcasts, or however long it is, these are about 2 hours long, something like that. I just cut them to whatever length seems right. If you're not so keen on the big long podcasts, tell me and I'll keep it in mind. If you're not so keen on the cut-up style I'm occasionally adopting, tell me and I'll keep that in mind. Really do feed in to what I'm doing and I will respond to it. I'm big enough and old enough to take it on the chin. Let me tell you, I've had people who haven't just disliked what I've done, they've hated what I did and wanted me dead. So, I can take a bit of criticism about audio quality or anything like that. Don't worry about that, that's fine. Ways to contact me, well, you can get through on the website that I was mentioning before, I almost read out the one I work at. www.majerisons.blogspot.co.uk. As groovy and tremendous to pop up sort of comment on there, or the Facebook page dedicated to this podcast, or you can go and get hold of me via Twitter, and that's fine as well. Although the
Screeching
Twitter
tires,
traffic now
lots
on
of
my
screeching tires.
it's
That
getting
explains
quite
the
busy,
smoke.
quite a lot of people getting involved there, and not all of them podcast listeners, so it's sometimes hard to distinguish why people are talking to me on that one. But there we are, Nick Majerison, twitter.com at the front of it, you'll find that. So I watched a BBC documentary this week which took the biscuit a little bit when it blamed public spending cuts for the death of drummer Lee Rigby. Is it drummer Lee Rigby or gunner Lee Rigby? I heard him called gunner Lee Rigby initially, but they changed it to drummer Lee Rigby, or maybe I misheard it. He used to operate a machine gun. That was his job. Military man. They ran him over in the street, and then they tried to cut his head off, and they gained a lot of press coverage as a result, and lots of soul-searching and agonising from talking heads up and down the United Kingdom, wondering who's to blame for what happened. Now, I'm going to make this real clear, right? My take on this, it's never made me popular, this point of view, but my take on this, pretty straightforward. I blame the people who ran him over and then tried to hack his head off in the street. Right? I blame the people that actually did it. I don't blame the evil Tories or any political party in this country, or Islam, or radical Islam either, or Tony Blair, or anyone else. I blame the people who actually did the crime. Now, the BBC's approach throughout the documentary was to wonder aloud if it was perhaps words or a lack of government funding or radicalism that might be the real cause. I find that argument tedious. All criminals have their excuses. Pandering to them with a sympathetic ear seems like a very bad idea, particularly when one of their crimes is to try to cut a dead guy's head off in the middle of the street while shouting about a god. At that point, you think to yourself, all right, you're going to have to carry the can for this one, buddy boy. It wasn't an organised hit where someone paid him money. It was, I find it strange that in the Western world there's so many people so anxious at the moment to blame words and ideas for the deeds of people. As if you can't defend yourself once you're possessed by an idea. You literally can't stop yourself. You can't control yourself because ideas are so powerful. It just seems very, very odd. Here's some clips from the documentary. This is the first bit that really troubled me. It's right at the end of the documentary. I'll just quickly explain briefly how you put together a documentary for people who don't know. You go beginning, middle, conclusion. Right? Beginning, middle, end. The end bit is where you put forward your conclusions, your possible, explanations for what has happened and what you've been documenting. Right at the end, they speak firstly about a radical cleric called Anjem Chowdhury. Now, I've kind of crossed with these guys in the past. When I was on a radio station in London, I mentioned his organisation, Islam for UK, which has since been closed down, and pointed out that it can't have more than 100 to 200 people who are members of it. He had a website that he'd set up. It was hard to trace. It wasn't like a Facebook page where you could like it. It's hard to work out the scale of it, but there's a website, I think it's called Buzz or something like that. A listener showed me anyway. We checked out exactly how many hits this website was getting, and it was pathetic. There was hardly anyone logging onto it. Also, another thing that I noticed is that every time you saw this guy, Anjem Chowdhury, his crowd was always composed of exactly the same people. They had the same faces, they were the same people, over and over again. Can't have been a big organisation, that much was apparent. And I think some of the members of the organisation got upset that I was saying that there weren't many of them. It's a point of fact, it's not in the thousands, it can only be in the hundreds, that group. Anyway, he gets a lot of press coverage because of his radical point of view, and I support that. I think he should be allowed on the television. I think he should be allowed on the airwaves to extol his point of view, just like anyone else who has an interesting point of view. And his points of view, although wrong, are interesting. Anyway, here's where they discussed Anjem Chowdhury. Have a listen, and then I'll explain why I think this is a problem.
Chowdhury denies meeting Adebowale at St Paul's or organising the event, although his mobile number is on the poster. Chowdhury... Oh,
by the way, if you're used to Fox News or anything like that, remember this organisation, the BBC,
it looks like most of everything I need to get out of...
It claims it is impartial, yet listen to the sinister music they're playing underneath this guy that they want you to dislike. Yeah, they have opinions, obviously, and their opinions are apparent in this documentary. But anyway, have a listen.
Originally agreed to give Panorama an interview, but he then changed his mind. He sent us an email, but only referred to what Michael Adebolajo had said in court, that he, Adebolajo, had never been a member of Al-Muhajirun, and that Chowdhury tells his followers that jihad in this country is not allowed. But crucially, Chowdhury made no comment on his relationship with Adebolajo or on overseeing his marriage.
We go from that little montage explaining what a bad man he is to a conversation with a senior policewoman, and Cressida Dick is her name. She's the Assistant Commissioner of Her Majesty's Police Force, or Service as it's supposed to be known. Here's what I find concerning. We've contextualised what a bad man this guy is for having opinions. He's never ever been, convicted of doing anything against the law. He has opinions, right? Now, I'm not a supporter of this guy, but freedom of speech, as I've said in the past, involves defending people whose points of view you disagree with. It's not about defending people whose points of view you agree with. That's not the idea of free speech. Free speech is the idea that people are allowed to say things which are offensive, which are wrong, and so on. That's what free speech is. Listen to what she says.
You regard Anjem Chowdhury and his role?
I think, like most people in this country, we in the police do regard him as a very bad influence on people. When he's not committing a crime, but simply speaking in a way which is allowed by the law, clearly that's not a job for the police.
And you'll be watching him closely at his every word?
We absolutely are, and we have been, and we look forward to the day when we can bring him to justice.
All right, OK, we look forward to the day when we can bring him to justice. And obviously the people watching the documentary will have been grinding their teeth, delighted that a man who has bad opinions will soon be brought to justice. Right, we've got a concept in this country called innocent until proven guilty. The police should comprehend that idea. He hasn't done anything wrong. What justice are you going to bring him to? You accept that he's not done anything wrong. What justice are you going to bring him to? What are you talking about? She talks about how, like the majority of this country, he has, he's a bad influence. Okay, she's speaking on the behalf of everyone else. She's saying how he's a bad man. She's agreeing with the BBC and their sinister music, and she wants to bring him to justice? What justice? Do you see how this is a problem? No matter which side you take, if you're someone who wants, right-wing extremists banned from this country, then you end up advocating the death of free speech. If you're someone who wants radical Islamists who have only expressed an opinion brought to justice, you are advocating the death of free speech. You understand this? Carries on.
Abdul Haq Baker's street project was financed by the government, but in 2011 the coalition stopped its funding. As a result, its activities were severely curtailed.
Now, for anyone who's not familiar with the debates here in the United Kingdom, it works like this. The coalition is a government that would call itself right-wing. You've got the Tories and another group called the Liberal Democrats, who formed together to form a government. And now what they're doing is spending cuts, austerity measures. And these are quite unpopular with people who call themselves left-wing. I mean, they're not actually cutting government spending, I'll just mention that. The amount of money they're spending hasn't gone down. So either which way, the whole thing's nonsense. But here we go.
If your funding had not been cut, and if you had been able to engage with Michael Adebolajo, do you believe that Michael Adebolajo could have been prevented from committing the atrocity at Woolwich?
Let's just clarify the question that guy has really been asked. He's really been asked, do you want public money? Do you want money? Do you want to be given money? What do you think he says?
Confident in our track record that we could have prevented this.
You could have stopped it?
Yes.
Cue the sad music.
Drummer Lee Rigby.
I mean, it's a bit of a joke, isn't it? I just find it tedious, this idea that anyone else is to blame for what they've done. These terrorists are to blame. They're not even terrorists, really. They're criminals. They're terrorists if you let them become terrorists. They're terrorists if you let them terrify you. But in reality, they're just criminals. And this is an act of street-bound violence. And the people to blame are the people who did the crime. I know that doesn't make for as long and fun a documentary, but there we are. Hope you've enjoyed listening to the podcast. See you next Tuesday. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that kind of stuff. Although I try to avoid doing too many things that are attached to what's happening in the here and now on podcasts. I want these things to sit forever and make sense. But there we go. Merry Christmas. Yada yada.
Love you so bad till I don't know what to do. Well, I'm going down Louisiana to get me a mojo hand. I'm going down Louisiana to get me a mojo hand. I'm gonna have all you ever rich and I'm not gonna man. Oh, well, my mojo's working, yeah. Well, my mojo's working, baby. But I got my mojo working, yeah. My mojo's working, all right, yeah. My mojo's working, but just don't work on me.
Once more, Chris Osmond saves my butt. Thanks, Chris Osmond. There, I just had the good graces of covering my butt for a couple seconds. Totally did. Well, it's good and quiet. So I got nothing better to listen to, and I intend to listen to them. Might have to turn it up on my end to hear this at all.
Files, Presidential Recordings Collection. Meeting recording numbers 37.1 through 37.3. For additional information, please see recording log numbers 37.1 through 37.3.
Everything's cool here? Yeah. Everything. Right on. So how much more do I have to do for Lorenz here? Quite a bit. Gonna have to zoom in top down again. Play it forward a little. She holds position. Maybe walks up street a little tiny bit, but I got the right position on her. Insert low note. Tim Warner.
It's just doctrinally backward they are. If we can break this out of intelligence and use it for background, it will help. Well, since they're now camouflaging, it seems to me the objection is outdated. Mr. President, could Secretary Rosenberg talk to him?
Real quiet for me here. She must be closer to the sidewalk than that there. I'm going to grab that on the X and move it in. And then reload it. And then I'm going to go to the other one. And do the same thing. And do to the last one before that too. Okay, that one, that one, that one. That looks better. I was hoping that I would be able to.
General Assembly, where all this vast mutual opinion has much more weight than it does in the Security
avoid
Council.
doing too much in one night. Well, trying to get through most of it.
UN, our allies, have been very hopeful during this situation. In general, there's still, to be noted, some elements of caution in the Soviet attitude. In their speech to the UN, although it was bitter and as violent as ever, did seem to us to go to some pains to keep the finger on the Cuban U.S. aspects of the matter rather than the USSR U.S. aspects of the matter. As far as we know, the Soviets have not told their own people that they have missiles in Cuba, which indicates that this is not something that they think that their own people may be very disturbed and create war scares there if they would give that information. We do think that there are, although the situation is highly critical and dangerous, that it is not frozen in any inevitable way at this point, and that we can continue to watch the activity of the other side and their reactions to see what is likely to happen. We have a variety of rumors, gossip, and reports, but I don't think I can give a definitive view today as to what the real attitude of the Soviet Union is on this matter. Our best judgment is that they are scratching their brains very hard at the present time and deciding just exactly how they want to play this, what they want to do about it. Mr. Khrushchev did, in a telegram to Western Russia, say the Soviet Union will take no rash action. It will not let itself be provoked by the unjustified actions of the United States. We will do everything that depends on us to prevent the launching of the war. That's worth only what it says. He said some other things before, but nevertheless, I think that we can report that there is no confirmed frozen Soviet reaction to the situation yet.
Yes, Mr. President, following the proclamation signed by the President at 7 o'clock last night, his orders to Task Force 136, which is operating under Admiral Ward, were issued to deploy to the quarantine stations. They were in position this morning at 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time, which was 2 p.m. Greenwich time, the effective time of quarantine. There have been no intercepts today, none were necessary. The tours of duty of Navy personnel and Marine Corps personnel presently on active duty have been extended indefinitely to allow the fleet to be brought to full operational manning and the Marines to achieve a higher than authorized strength to support the reinforcement of Guantanamo and to be prepared for any further eventualities. I have no other report to make.
Specifically, what do you use for intercept vessels, destroyers?
There are cruisers and destroyers in the intercept positions, and one or the other will be used depending upon the circumstances. There are anti-submarine warfare carriers available also to protect against possible submarine attack during the time of intercept.
Yeah, if it's another covered figure, how many are participating in the test?
Well, roughly 25 destroyers, plus 2 cruisers, and anti-submarine warfare carrier and certain other support ships.
But Secretary, where are these Russian ships that were en route to Cuba?
We can't say exactly. It's a tremendous expanse of ocean that we are endeavoring to watch, roughly from the Azores to Bermuda. The Soviet vessels that were proceeding toward Cuba appear to fall into 2 categories. One category appears to have shifted course, and the other category appears to be moving toward Cuba. Those that have shifted course
know, that has gotten around to any other papers, a number of other papers. I've had so many inquiries, I issued a statement that I never deemed it appropriate for the congressional participant in the White House Congress to discuss any details as to what transpired. My position is any such information should be released by the White House. Particularly in the present case, it could serve no useful purpose because our constitutional commander-in-chief, the President, has announced the policy of this country to the world. I shall not therefore comment in any way on the many rumors concerning one of the comments in the White House. Those said till the voice can speak to the United States as President. I'm supporting the program he's announced. But it's gotten all out. I don't know who's released it. I know I have.
What's the general nature of it, Mike?
Well, the nature of the fact that the question of the debate was raised. It mentions Senator Russell specifically. It creates the impression that it's only a matter of days until an invasion will be launched. The President, in fact, has made up his mind. And that's about it. That's the story. Well, it didn't quote from me, but it treated it very broadly. I may say, correctly, it's got people that don't read over my mouth about anything. But as much as I've been such a devil's advocate, Mr. President, and have been at times highly critical of the State Department, I would like to take this opportunity to heartily congratulate the Secretary of State on what I regard as a magnificent triumph in the Organization of American States on yesterday. It's rather lost sight of in all of the momentous marching events, but I thought it was a tremendous job. We can secure the unanimity of opinion that he did in the OAS. I never would have believed it was enough. I hope, Mr. Secretary, that that'll take the edge off some criticism of your
I may say, Mr. President, John, congratulations on having worked as Secretary a little bit. I am not really astounded. I've seen you do some magnificent jobs before. This is under difficult conditions.
This was a tremendous job. That's the most far-reaching pronouncement in all the states of American states and the most firm commitment to armed action to protect this hemisphere that I've ever seen. I never would believe it could have gotten. This is a highlight in our favor so far. This is a highlight in our favor so far. I think so. I say it every day.
Jefferson, I know that's me, but I would like to say that our Latin American friends, when they realized that these were offensive long-range missiles in Cuba, realized that this was a matter of the utmost importance, and they came forward as they had to do.
Mr. President, speaking of the State Department, Lev just tells me about this Wadsworth paper. What about it?
Well, I got a message that James Wadsworth had wanted to, through some organization, church organization or peace organization, had approached you for a week's moratorium and wanted me to stimulate it. I frankly say I told him that's a joke.
Well, we do expect Lieutenant sometime in the early evening to issue a statement on his own, which he would refer to as a balanced statement, calling for a 2 weeks moratorium during which there would be no movement of arms to Cuba and no quarantine, with rather vague references to verification and no reference to the actual missiles in Cuba itself. We have tried our best to get him to withhold any such statement, but he may nevertheless make it. We will have to get back to Steve for that. Yeah, we did get back to him.
I was told, Mr. President, just a moment ago, somebody overheard on the radio that Khrushchev had indirectly through Bertrand Russell suggested a summit conference. Is there any
I can read that. The full statement is Bertrand Russell.
Yeah, getting along here, but still quite a few to go.
Will not allow itself to be provoked by unwarranted actions of the United States of America. We should do everything in our power to prevent war from breaking out. We would consider a top-level meeting useful, noting that the U.S. government must display reserve and save the realization
Getting downrange, getting there.
which are fraught with the most serious consequences. And he did say that
If I got to hear, I'd be happy.
rocket nuclear weapons have not been used, there is a possibility
I did
of a
faith,
Korean
though.
war when the Americans launch aggression.
And I haven't got BD done yet either.
Possibly useless.
Could have been much worse here because forces behind the false flag really want a gunfight. Yeah.
No direct invitation to you.
It's true. Could have turned into a full-on riot. That's right. Would be not beyond the not beyond the abilities or like the attention of most groups when they get all fired up. Sounds like Johnson.
They could fly in warheads or something of that kind. Then they can fly in offensive materials. But if they were going to do it in any quantity at all, they would have to use their bombers for that purpose. This they might do.
I thought, well, one of those ways could take a atlas.
We have such planes. It's questionable whether they have planes that can move missiles of this size. In any event, they don't have enough planes, enough commercial planes, any important quantity of freight into Cuba. They would have to use their bombers for that purpose, and they might well decide to do so.
Is there any evidence of submarines, Mr. McNamara?
I want to answer that, but I want to say that our knowledge of submarines, the Soviet Union submarines in the Atlantic, is the most highly classified information we have in the department. And if you
prefer not to answer.
I
think you better leave that off, particularly in view of what happened here after the London conference on the Secretary. I mean, that's a suggestion.
Well, Dean, I don't want to kind of answer the question on why. Are you surprised by the slow uptake of the Soviet Union? We thought, and I refer to Dr. Thompson, chief advisor on this sort of thing, that this would catch them off timing. It appears that their timing was, as we look back on it now, was that Khrushchev would come to the UN late November, prepared to lay on a real crisis over Berlin, in a direct talk to the president. He wanted to have all this in his pocket when he had that talk. And our impression so far is that we have not caught them with a lot of contingency plans all laid on and ready to go. That this will upset their timing somewhat.
May I ask a question, Mr. McCone? Mr. McCone, what was your latest estimate on the number of MiG-21s in Cuba?
Well, our original estimate for the one, which we saw, 12 possible crates.
question. You stated at the outset that something about don't shoot unless attacked. Now, is that the order to the Cubans not to shoot unless attacked?
That's the information that we received today.
But the other day you said the Cubans were not in on these missiles at all. They're not in there, so...
That's right. As far as we know, the information we have, Senator, is that they are not in on the missile site. Except that maybe a very moderate way in connection with the construction of camps, things of that kind. And in those circumstances, our information that we have developed is that the Cubans that are on site are under very careful surveillance.
Have the Chinese been brought in?
Not to our knowledge. We have no information one way or the other on this.
Mr. President, are there any ships other than Russian ships involved in this possible quarantine or blockade?
Yes. The terms of the quarantine apply to all ships equally. We will therefore hail and stop and search ships of various nationalities proceeding through the quarantine area.
Suppose we just announced that any of those ships for the next 5 years couldn't come into any American port.
Well,
wouldn't that turn them around real fast?
Well, there's quite a few are being turned around voluntarily at the moment. The Japanese have just called back their ships going to Cuba. And the British government is moving out of it to moving on their shipping going to Cuba. So this could very well be handled voluntarily before we have to get to that point.
What about our other allies, Mr. Secretary?
Well, the rest of them are in pretty good shape. The Turks, the Italians, the Germans have all taken action. The Greeks have put on various restrictions, but we still have tankers and a few specialized ships like cargo that are working on that. We do have a problem about taking steps now that would be directed toward destroying Cuba, limiting our steps at the moment to the Soviet weapons problem, the offensive capability problem. We thought this first step ought to be to concentrate on the weapons problem, the military problem.
What's going to be the President's report to the nation?
I don't think we have one yet. Huh? I don't think we have one yet, Senator. We see what happens in the next 24 hours, whether the Soviets are going to accept it. I'd say the next 2 or 3 days we'll know a lot more about it. We can see what we're going to say.
Well, I was looking at the television this afternoon. A newspaper man reported that Khrushchev had said that he had asked you or sent a message through to have a summit conference, and I wondered if that is true.
No, I heard that I heard that such a report was on the television, but that isn't true. We received no message from him about it.
Well,
I think every time we get a message from
if it does come through, what's going to be the answer?
Well, why don't we wait till the message comes through, but there's no such messages yet. The only message, I think they probably referred to one of Lord Russell, but we received no message, and I think until we receive one and see what it says, I think it'll probably be.
Have you any type of information as to whether the Russian ships are proceeding toward Cuba?
Not with the precision. No. Some seem to be, some may not be, but I don't think we'll know don't we do this? The Secretary raised a point. We don't want to look like we're putting, in any way, relaxing our effort. I think why don't we just say that we're going to meet shortly. We're on the leadership's on an 8-hour standby basis, and we'll be meeting shortly, and then we don't
rather than any reference to money.
Well, up to say anything, Mr. President, I don't know much fuss to me, though. I thought the course was pretty well determined. That happened, why, it's all well ready. If it don't, why, we will have Secretary McNamara's fleet out there sitting on Cuba sometime, so he turns back, not coming in.
Well, why don't we keep it on an 8-hour basis, and I'll be in touch with leadership as far as when we should next meet. We might be thinking the back of our mind, we might just get a Monday, but we'll be in touch with you on that.
You don't firm things.
That's right, and I think we'll just say that leadership is on an 8-hour standby basis.
But do you intend, so far as you know, to call it back Monday? Or would you like for it to be back Monday?
Why don't I get in touch with you Friday on that? I think it's probably better not to do what the Secretary says. You're right, not to have a day, so we're on an 8-hour standby basis. I think that's
Mr. President, before we leave, Senator McNamara, I heard your press conference part of the television. You mentioned military equipment and associated materials or something like that.
Offensive weapons and associated equipment, I believe I said.
I just wondered, in light of what was said here in reference to tankers and so forth, is that just...
It was not intended to include tankers at the present time, but rather electronic parts that are associated with missile systems.
I got the impression that it didn't even fly to conventional weapons. They brought in 5,000 rifles and used that by
We meant to leave that impression, that rifles were excluded from the quarantine.
Yes, that's what I read your statement, all of it, and I got the impression this was something that was related to these missiles, that in other words, ordinary field pieces.
That's exactly the impression we meant to leave. With the qualification that the items covered by the quarantine would be changed as circumstances.
Oh, yeah, you made that clear.
I got that.
You don't mind pretending in the 7 to 10 days you will be ready to take action if
we are prepared to do so if conditions warrant.
You will be prepared.
Yes, that's correct.
That's the procedure.
That's correct.
Secretary, did I understand you to say you wouldn't permit 5,000 rifles to go through?
But here's the reason. What we want to do for the OAS, for the UN, for our allies, is emphasize offensive weapons. The language of the quarantine, however, can be changed at any moment. But the first collision with the Soviets, we wanted to just have it on the offensive weapons for political reasons. If they once accept quarantine, we're not going to let the rifles go through, but we want to put the whole emphasis on this missile thing because it puts us in a much stronger position around the world. So that's where we've chosen the first flash to come. But quite obviously, if they accept the quarantine, we will not permit these rifles to go through.
Mr. President, may I say something on this matter of the security of these meetings? Now, we're going to be asked all kinds of leading questions by the press. I've been called all day. I think the answer should be that we don't comment upon the matter in any shape, form, or fashion. That any release will come from the White House. We won't even tell them where somebody sat. I remember one time when a commentator called me and wanted to know which side of President Eisenhower the Secretary of State on. I said, I'm not going to comment. And he slammed the receiver in my ear. But it seems to me that we ought to make it the secrecy absolute. Just say there's no comment. I'm saying that because otherwise the finger of suspicion points at every person who is here.
I will say that we've had about, I suppose, 8 or 10 meetings since I've been here, and I think the security's been awfully good, so if we can keep it up, I think it would make our meetings much more productive.
I illustrate that if I were sort of saying that there are elements of caution in the Soviet attitude, the Soviet government has certainly taken steps to prove me a line.
Yeah, well, I think some of these meetings quite a while, Mr. President, not as long as some around here, but and I trust that what Mike Mansfield brought up here doesn't require personal disavowal on the part of every one of us.
I think we get right to the
because I've just been meticulous about refraining from talking about what's said here. One further thing, Mr. President. Now, as I understand it, you will, or the White House will make some statement to the effect that this thing's going along, and
Almost at APC orange, getting there. If I even got there, I'll be happy. Seems like the meeting must be over. Not a single drop frame. Imagine. Maybe I'm doing something right. I gotta stretch my legs or I'll go crazy.
Love you so bad till I Trackly hit. Let's shot a movie once in my hometown. Everybody was in it. Miles around. I don't. At a speedway, same Elvis thing. Well, I ain't no movie star, but I can get behind anything. Well, I can get behind anything, baby. Well, I can get behind anything. Oh, I can get behind anything, yeah. Well, I can get behind anything, baby. A little bit of trash, good hit for it. Patty's Day. I didn't even see no green beer yet. What is this? God damn. It's a travesty. But it's alright though. Hope you guys are enjoying your St. Patty's. It's the best drinking holiday of the year in my opinion. Here's a little tune now we're gonna try by Cream, a song called Outside Woman Blues. Am I festive enough, guys? I don't know. I think I need some more shamrocks or something.
I want us to hear that next one. So I'm going to hear it. Getting a glass of water before I start again, though. That's not very professional. Dead air. Ew. Okay, Chris. Save me. This might even do it. Pounding in the back. Beta do 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 do.
to ourselves. We can have your wife and you're outside of heaven too. When you lose your one more, well, it's gonna be at home, doing your dirt, cooking your food, whatever you try to do.
Yeah. Chris Osmond's Blue Mood.
John F. Kennedy Law.
Established course to Cuba, and it, instead of moving directly east by turning around completely, it appears that it might have moved northwest. I say might have because some of our direction finding fixes and other information as to how it behaves are not accurate to closer tolerances than about
Excision 8, 43 seconds, excised.
We have pictures of the Komar craft moored in port with covers on the missiles.
Excision 9, 1 minute and 33 seconds, excised.
And therefore, I think that we can conduct low-level surveillance with very little risk of an incident that we did not wish to incite ourselves. We may wish to. Two advantages, three advantages really. One, it'll give us some intelligence we can use to benefit from. Two, it'll establish a pattern of operation that is consistent with an attack
Excuse me.
We don't want to board any tankers and not board. They don't want to board any other tankers right now. Oh, yes, we'll be boarding tankers. Yeah, I think the only... Oh, not today. Not today. Yes, sir. Well, then we got to board this one if we board somebody else. Well, there will be ships we won't. There will be tankers we didn't board. We're going to have to be a variety. It looks awful to me if we board a British tanker and not this one.
I think we're big enough.
Yes, it's important to board a Russian ship. It is. This may be the best chance you'll have on that Russian board ship.
Breezing through this one.
Serious right now. This is a serious one to turn around, but obviously no one's dragging it. I think the whole problem is to make a judgment of who should have messaged me last night.
What was that?
Combined with when she said they're not
Is this thing working right?
they're going to take action if we do.
Fall asleep again.
It's happening with the UN and so on now. Unless there's something, unless more time is going to make
Huh.
it more likely that we're going to
Right,
get
look.
something out of it with the UN.
All right, cool.
I suppose you have to draft the medal. I don't know whether 48 hours. I think let this go through. Having this tomorrow, then announce in Cuba that we let it go through American ship across it.
I think it's such an obvious true that it would not weaken our position to have them announce it went through.
Can I pick up the other one?
Well, we could pick it up, but it can be done in less than 48 hours. It can't be done in less than 24 hours.
You couldn't pick it up this afternoon.
No, sir.
Well, this ship won't be in until tomorrow. We have our best case then tomorrow. Well, what time? We don't know definitely what time tomorrow.
No, but I think we can't pick it up except at a considerable distance from Cuba.
Now, they've already wired back that they were accosted by the destroyer and they were let them see. What impression do they get over there that we let this one go?
I think their impression would be that it was not carrying prohibited cargo. It was obviously a tanker. We queried it. They told us it was carrying only POL. That was not on our list. We let it go through.
If this is 500 miles out, then we'll get there at, 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
Rough it out, yes.
Now, would we have a chance of picking this other one up tomorrow?
Well, we would in this sense. If you do it the barrier at 2,000 hours, there's 8 p.m. each daylight time day after tomorrow. And if we send a ship out immediately to meet it, I would roughly calculate we intersected around 800 or 900 miles out from Cuba sometime late tomorrow. Turn it around. Well, it's already receiving. I doubt very much they'll change its course between now and tomorrow night. There's no reason why they should do it now instead of earlier. This is the drive. But this is the drive. I mean, there's some reason to believe that they were uncertain how to handle it. This is the only ship that appears to have possibly first deviated from its established course and then resumed that course. All the other ships either continued on course to Cuba or turned around and went back.
What's the advantage of letting this one pass?
To Bucharest. And the only advantage is avoiding a shooting incident over a ship that appears to the public to be an obvious example of a ship not carrying prohibited cargo. This is the point. This is not a very good investigation there. But the other ship is much better.
John F. Kennedy Library, President's Office Files, Presidential Recordings Collection. Meeting recording numbers 38.1 through 38.2A. 1 minute and 56 seconds of this tape have been excised for reasons of national security. The 2 excisions are indicated. For additional information, please see recording log numbers 38.1 through 38.2A.
That's right. And to establish a forceful position that will lead to that. I don't think we
Look at this. Cutner footage right there.
We can say, like I say, we can say the Bucharest had hatches that were too small to allow anything other than hoses to go in. Tankers come in several different categories. Some tankers can carry nothing but COL, other tankers can carry COL plus dry cargo under deck, other tankers can carry
Insert
COL, dry
load
cargo,
rope
load deck,
thoughts.
and deck load. We can simply say the Bucharest is in the first category.
Well, that's excellent. Because I don't want to track any farther than that. So it appears to me, from what I see here, I'm down to the short and the curlies. We got boat depository to track, and that's about it. Dang, he's pretty easy. No long-term tracking, only short-term. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6, and that's 7. Plus Gilmore. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and Gilmore. And then do it at the front part. Woo! Okay, that's it for tonight, I think, YouTube. Thanks for sticking out with me. My name is James PFP. We've been listening to a little bit of the Kennedy tapes in the background here in this last part of the episode. I'll save tape 38 for next time. Thank you very much for watching. Comment below if you have anything to add. This map should be good for a little bit of a watch next time around. I think maybe I'll turn off the sequencer side of it and just let the animated map do its thing. So we'll pick it up again later on this afternoon. Comment below, as I say, if you haven't subscribed yet and you're thinking about it, please consider subscribing. I like thumbs up too. And thank you for watching.